Hey, it's Rob Weinberg, and on this channel, we empower people to take control of their futures through expert mortgage, financial, and real estate strategies. If it's your first time watching us, go ahead, hit that subscribe button, and don't forget to get notified on all the new content we're putting out every single week. In our whiteboard lesson today, we're going to be talking about debt freedom in the new year. I know a lot of people have accumulated debt, not only over the year, but recently due to the holiday spending, right? So we want to talk about some solutions to get out of debt, especially if you're a homeowner, and get you positioned financially for 2024 and beyond. So the first thing for us to discuss is mindfulness. I know it's really difficult with the holiday season, everything going on, to step back and look at your finances, but you need to be mindful of your finances. You need to set a budget. You need to know what you're doing with your money. And in some cases, you may need to make some cuts and changes to stay on track, okay? You also want to consider, instead of buying people material items and actual physical gifts for the holidays, maybe you consider an experience instead, taking the whole family out for something. In a lot of cases, you can actually save money doing that and create an even better gift by creating a memory and experience that could last for decades and decades. So that's something to consider, but at the very least, be mindful of all your spending budgets and things of that nature for the holidays so you don't get in over your head. If you do find yourself in a predicament with at least 3, 5, 10,000 or more in debt, then we're gonna talk about some strategies that you can use today to start getting on that path to getting out of debt. So the first thing you wanna do is you gotta assess the damage. How much debt are we dealing with? How much leftover holiday spending do you have to clean up? Then we want to develop a realistic repayment plan. We're going to focus on two main strategies, the debt avalanche method and the debt snowball method, all right? Then we also want to look at, do you have other money in other accounts somewhere that could be reallocated to pay off debt? For example, maybe you have money just sitting in an old investment account. Maybe you have money in a savings account that wasn't doing anything for you. Some or all that may be repositioned over to your debt in order to get you towards that debt freedom, but it has to be part of an overall financial plan, okay? So for those that are actually carrying that debt, let's dive into these different strategies. The debt snowball is going to be a strategy that you're going to list your debts from the smallest balance all the way to the largest balance. And you're going to start paying the smallest balance one first, while making minimum payments on all the other accounts. You're going to put as much extra money on that first smallest debt as you can to get rid of it as quickly as possible. And once that first smallest debt is gone, you're going to roll the money from that debt that you were paying to the next debt, and so on and so forth until all the debts are gone. Doing this can reduce the amount that you're paying in interest by 1/2 to 1/3 or less, depending on how many debts you have and the total balances. So debt snowball, great strategy. The other one is the debt avalanche. The debt avalanche is very similar, except instead of listing your debt from the smallest balance to the largest balance, I'm going to have you list your debt from the highest interest rate to the lowest interest rate. Don't even look at the balances, just highest rate to lowest rate. And then you're going to use that same roll down snowball method to make the minimum payments on all the debts except the first one. You're going to put all your money towards that first one, all your extra money, while making those other minimum payments on all the other debts. And then ultimately, when that first debt is paid off, you're going to roll that money down to the next highest interest and next, and so on and so forth. So this is great if you have, 5, 10,000 or less in debt. But if you're dealing with a lot of debt, I'm talking about 10,000 or more, then home equity options may be something that we look at for you, okay? It can get intimidating if you're sitting there with 10, 20, 30,000, 50,000 or more in debt to start looking at one of these roll down methods or avalanche methods, because it's like throwing a pebble at a crater. It's gonna take a lot of time to do it, right? So how can we accelerate that? Well, if you're a homeowner and you have some equity built up in your home or in your homes, multiple properties, then there are several solutions that we can look at to get you closer to financial freedom using that equity. So let's talk about a home equity line of credit, or HELOC. Generally, a HELOC is going to have a minimum amount of $25,000, and they'll go up to $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 or more. But the minimum is $25,000. So if you have less than $25,000 in debt, home equity line of credit may not be your best bet. But it is a great solution, especially if you have a low rate first mortgage, because you can borrow against the equity in your home, taking out a second position loan. It won't have any effect on your first mortgage, and that will allow you to actually pay off the debt in full using the equity in your home, and then design a more customized, more flexible payoff strategy once the debt is consolidated into your home equity. Okay. Another thing to think about now that wasn't even an opportunity, say 6 months ago, was a rate and term refi. If you're somebody that's bought your home in the last 2 years, you probably don't have a lot of equity built up unless you put a large down payment. So if that's you, it might be time to explore a rate and term refi, just looking at dropping your rate, because we've seen a big reduction in interest rates over the last 30 to 45 days. You might be able to save a few $100s or more a month on your mortgage payment, which then you could use to reallocate to pay off debt. Okay, so that's a really important thing to understand. Even if you don't have the equity to actually pay the debt in full, you could restructure your mortgage to create that margin to accelerate the debt, kind of a little bit of a workaround. And the last home equity option that I want to discuss here is going to be the cash out refinance. So the cash out refinance hasn't really been talked about a lot over the last year or so because the interest rates have been escalating. But if you're someone with lower credit, maybe you can't qualify for a home equity line or a home equity loan, a cash out refi may be the best option for you. And in some cases, even where someone could qualify for a home equity line or a home equity loan, the cash out refi actually saves them more money. So you need to look at all the options and have your mortgage advisor weigh the different options for you so you know what's available. So refinancing, should you do it? Let's dive in, because so many people have been put off by refinancing over the last little bit here, year or two, because of those escalating rates. The media is telling you don't do it, it's a bad idea, it doesn't make sense, but everybody's circumstance is different. So I would encourage you to question, should you refinance or not? Again, have your advisor run different equity scenarios to see what's gonna work for you. But you wanna look at the refinance because your debt is a portfolio, and the mortgage, your first mortgage, is a big part of that portfolio of debt, even if it's at an ultra low rate. Home equity is also probably your biggest asset other than your retirement, but for most people, their home equity actually has more money in it than their retirement fund. So you need to use it wisely. Restructuring the debt and the mortgage, using the equity in your home as a financial tool, as a debt weapon, right? So when that interest starts spiraling out of control, the cash out refi can be a great way. Any of these options can be a great way to just get rid of that interest, stop the bleeding, so to speak, on that credit card or high interest debt. And then the last piece of the refi and home equity is that once you do that consolidation, you need to take the savings and actually utilize it for something. I see so many people that just let it evaporate. They save 500, 1,000 or more, they just let it go. They don't see that money anymore. But you need to be intentional with that money. You need to use that money to accelerate your retirement, put it in investments, accelerate your mortgage payoff. And I've seen people that are saving thousands a month take just half the money they were saving and put that back onto their mortgage and get rid of their mortgage in 1/2 to 1/3 the time that they had before. So don't squander that savings, because that could be the key to unlock your financial future. And the last thing we'll discuss here is success stories. I know we've been talking numbers, but what about some real world scenarios from people that have refinanced or gotten home equity in the last 6 months? What have they been able to accomplish? So one of my clients, Tom from Waterbury, had been trying to refinance for decades. He actually only had a couple years left on his mortgage, but he had all this credit card debt built up. So we were able to get him qualified for a bank statement mortgage that didn't look at his taxes, because he wasn't able to refinance in the past because he didn't show a lot of income on his taxes. He's self-employed. Once we looked at his bank statements though for his business, he shows a ton of income there that we could use. So we were able to easily get him approved for a cash out refi, paid off all of his debt, over $40,000 in credit card debt, and saved him over $1,300 a month on his payments. And this is a client that just closed in the last couple weeks, all right? One other story is gonna be Kelly from Hartford. Kelly came to me using her credit cards for business capital and just got off track with her finances. So she actually had no mortgage on her home at all. What we did was we did a home equity loan, which paid off all her credit card debt, gave her the cash flow that she needs for capital to expand her business further. And in her case, she saved over $800 a month in addition to getting that influx of cash flow. So these are real world scenarios from people right now that are taking advantage of the equity in your home. Are you somebody that should be doing this? Let's have a discussion. I do offer one-on-one personal consultations. You can reach out to me directly by call, text, or private message. My direct line is 860-413-3938. As always, I hope that helps, and we'll see you next time.